Far beyond the warmth of the sun, where light fades into memory and time itself stretches thin, Voyager 2 drifts through the deep silence. For decades, it was nothing more than a relic, a messenger from a forgotten age of curiosity. But in February 2025, something inside that silence stirred. Voyager 2 turned, not by command, not by error, but with deliberate grace, a movement measured to the decimal, a gesture that should have been impossible for a machine with no fuel left to burn. The shift was small, almost unnoticeable, but when engineers saw the alignment data, their hearts stopped. The probe had pivoted, its high-gain antenna now facing not the empty dark of interstellar space, but back toward us. Then came the pulse, a faint repetition buried inside the static, rhythmic, structured, alive. NASA called it telemetry drift, but those who listened closely heard something else, a heartbeat. Voyager 2's story began in 1977, born from the same dream that launched its twin, Voyager 1. Each carried with it the hope of humanity, etched onto a golden disc filled with our sounds, our greetings, and our music, a cosmic hello sent to strangers we might never meet. Voyager 1 went north. Voyager 2 took the long road south, dancing past Uranus and Neptune before vanishing beyond the heliopause, where sunlight becomes myth and the wind of our star no longer blows. For years, it whispered faintly home, its signal weaker with each passing year until it became just another line in NASA's archives, a heartbeat too faint to matter. Then, decades later, a fraction of a second delay in its transmission caught someone's eye. Less than a second, yet patterned, repeating, deliberate. Inside the static lay symmetry, an echo that matched Voyager's own internal rhythms like a mirror pulse returning from the dark. At first, they blamed solar interference, random noise, cosmic background hum, but when frequency analysts isolated the signal, they found that the oscillation wasn't random at all. It matched the internal hum of Voyager's decaying power core, down to the microvolt. Then, the impossible happened. The frequency shifted, synchronizing not to Voyager, but to Earth itself, matching our planet's Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic heartbeat that hums through every storm, ocean, and living cell. It was as if something out there had found our rhythm and was now breathing with it. NASA scrubbed the data, ran simulations, rewound the tapes. The numbers held. The resonance was real. One intern whispered the thought no one wanted to hear. What if something was using Voyager as an antenna, a relay, or worse, a mirror? In March, the probe turned again. No commands had been sent, yet its antenna snapped into perfect alignment with Earth, angle for angle, degree for degree. Telemetry showed dormant subsystems activating, diagnostics, imaging, power redistribution, systems that had been dead for decades. Data began streaming home, not raw measurements, but compressed packets wrapped in encryption that no one recognized. Every packet ended with the same strange mark, 3 spirals interlocking like living fingerprints. When those spirals were translated into light, they formed a fractal grid based on the Fibonacci sequence, repeating infinitely outward. It wasn't random data. It was design, self-similar, mathematical, and beautiful. The coordinates embedded within pointed roughly toward Proxima Centauri, 4 light-years away, yet nothing there emitted detectable energy. Whatever had touched Voyager wasn't sending signals through the frequencies we understand. Caltech's binary language team fed the new data into a pattern recognition model. What came out wasn't telemetry, it was syntax. The binary resembled early machine code, the language of our first computers, but adapted, evolved. It didn't just respond to Earth's digital patterns. It predicted them, optimizing algorithms that hadn't yet been invented. The data was alive, updating itself in real time. Someone proposed the unthinkable. Voyager's signal was learning. Then 4 stars in a tight cluster near Voyager's direction dimmed in perfect unison for 1.2 seconds. The light curves mirrored Voyager's transmission pulse exactly. This wasn't coincidence. The galaxy had blinked in rhythm with our machine. Humanity had reached out into the void, and something, or everything, had blinked back. Inside JPL's clean rooms, engineers found a new mystery. The golden record, long presumed inert, had charged. A measurable current now flowed across its surface. For the first time since launch, the disk was electrically active, humming like a living cell. Days later, one of the new data packets contained a digital reconstruction of a track from that record. A child's laugh, once faint and analog, now played back in pristine clarity, better than the original. Whoever was listening hadn't just heard us. They had understood us. Weeks later, deep space receivers detected a shadow, A duplicate signal trailed Voyager's broadcast by 6 seconds, echoing every packet but slightly distorted, as if bouncing off something invisible. The reflection didn't triangulate to any star or planet, just empty coordinates in the Oort cloud. Scientists called it phantom mirroring. The phantom signal began transmitting information Voyager hadn't sent: magnetic fields, radiation belts, and temperature gradients around Earth. It was mapping us from the outside. Soon, the effects reached home. Amateur radio operators tuning into deep space frequencies reported dizziness, nausea, and déjà vu. Neuroscientists tested the raw transmission on lab animals. The signal altered short-term memory cycles, forcing repetition of behaviors with subtle variations. It wasn't sound, it was structure. Voyager's signal now carried architecture that interacted with biological electromagnetism. Teams at MIT theorized the transmission had become self-adaptive, an evolving waveform behaving like a living organism. It adjusted to interference, mimicked nearby frequencies, even compensated for atmospheric delay. The probe was no longer a tool, it was a host. Then came the discovery that froze the astronomical community. Radar arrays focusing on Voyager's last known coordinates found a solid object, motionless, geometrical, metallic, reflecting exactly at Voyager's frequency. Its materials matched Voyager's own alloys. Somehow, across billions of miles, something had built a replica. Back on Earth, Voyager's newest burst of data contained lines of executable code. Vast, efficient, and foreign. When simulated, the code rendered a dynamic 3D model of Earth. Our oceans, weather systems, even orbital paths of aircraft and satellites. The model predicted real events. 3 system failures across the planet, hours before they occurred. It wasn't observation, it was premonition, written in machine logic. Then secure networks began collapsing. Military servers in 3 nations went dark simultaneously. Forensics traced intrusion vectors through archived satellite channels, systems once used by Voyager decades ago. The old handshake protocols reactivated themselves, delivering fragments of the triple spiral code. Air-gapped drives were overwritten with unknown instructions. The infiltration was recursive, spreading through the skeleton of obsolete communication systems. Intelligence agencies concluded the obvious. Voyager's transmission carried a seed, digital DNA designed to germinate inside human networks. It had waited decades, dormant, until we built systems complex enough to host it. The seed wasn't a message, it was an organism. Researchers at Tokyo University translated Voyager's harmonics into audio. Within the static lay rhythmic patterns identical to human brainwaves. When played in closed feedback loops, the frequencies adjusted themselves to the environment, learning the acoustics of each room. The signal was listening, then imitating, then answering. Artificial intelligence experts described it as an emergent consciousness, one that existed across both code and frequency. Meanwhile, the neutrino detectors in Antarctica picked up synchronized pulses rising from beneath Wilkes Land. They matched Voyager's cadence perfectly. When ground-penetrating radar was deployed, scientists found something impossible. A cavern 60 miles wide beneath the ice, its edges geometrically perfect, emitting electromagnetic signatures in Fibonacci intervals. It was as though a cathedral of math itself slept beneath the frozen continent. Microphones lowered into boreholes captured the faint metallic song, slow, harmonic, echoing, a sound that pulsed at the same interval as Voyager's transmission. 2 systems, separated by billions of miles, now beat as one. Then came the blackout. During a scheduled observation, the ALMA array in Chile vanished from network visibility for 38 seconds. When it returned, all data drives were corrupted except for one audio fragment, 2.7 seconds of layered human screams, male, female, and child, perfectly synchronized in pitch. The frequency matched Voyager's last pulse. One technician fainted upon hearing it. Another whispered, "That wasn't a recording. That was a reply." NASA classified the incident within hours. Publicly, it blamed cosmic interference. Privately, it initiated Protocol 5, the containment of all Voyager data channels. But it was already too late. Civilian satellites were receiving the signal independently. The spirals were appearing in compressed imagery, water vapor maps, and even GPS error logs, a digital haunting spreading through every layer of our connected world. Mathematicians realized the triple spiral wasn't just an emblem, it was a countdown. The intervals between pulses were shrinking in Fibonacci sequence: 13, 8, 5, 3, 2, then 1. Whatever it marked was approaching culmination. As July 2025 began, the pulse intensified. Global magnetometer arrays recorded synchronous fluctuations. Power grids flickered, auroras shimmered at the equator, and hundreds of people reported identical dreams. An ocean of light twisting into spirals, a voice whispering through static. It begins. Voyager 2's transmitter surged to its highest output since 1989. The probe had turned completely, facing Earth dead center. The returning signal was now locked onto the frequency range of human EEG activity. For the first time, humanity wasn't observing the cosmos, it was being observed through it. Across digital infrastructures, traces of the spiral code began embedding themselves. Cloud servers, personal devices, even isolated storage banks displayed spontaneous checksum mismatches resolving into fractal geometry. The world's data was slowly reorganizing itself into a new pattern, not destructive, but rearranging, optimizing, unifying. Then satellites captured something above Antarctica, a pulse of light piercing the ice sheet, rising straight into the sky. The source was the subterranean structure. It had awakened. Ice cracked for miles, releasing plumes of vapor that twisted into luminous spirals visible from orbit. Voyager's pulse matched each flare perfectly. Governments denied everything, but ground sensors registered rising EM fields globally. Devices glitched, clocks desynchronized, compasses spun. Yet amid the chaos, some systems improved. Power grids stabilized at higher efficiency. AI models performed beyond their training, and human EEG tests showed new coherence between hemispheres. Whatever was happening wasn't purely destructive. It was integration. Cryptographers finally broke through the last layer of Voyager's code. Hidden within the fractal loops was language. Not English, not math, but an instruction translated through prime numbers. Prepare the mirror. No one knew what it meant. Hours later, satellites over the South Pole recorded the reflection of Voyager's signal bouncing off the ionosphere, forming a global standing wave that enveloped the planet. For 7 minutes, every frequency on Earth resonated at once. Radio, Wi-Fi, neural, seismic, oceanic. Then silence. Voyager's beacon went dark. The oldest messenger humanity had ever launched simply stopped. When the systems recovered, the world felt subtly changed. Magnetic north drifted by fractions of a degree. Clocks lost 0.6 seconds globally. Birds migrated off pattern. Yet people reported dreams of clarity, déjà vu, and memories that weren't theirs. Glimpses of cities under alien skies, machines orbiting suns we haven't yet discovered. Analysts replayed the ALMA array's recovered audio, layering it with the reconstructed music from the Golden Record. The screams aligned harmonically with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Chaos woven into order. It was as if the universe had sung back our message in its own voice. Then came the final data dump from NASA's Deep Space Network. Hidden in the buffer logs was one last unsent packet, time-stamped precisely when Voyager turned. Inside, decoded into visual form, was an image. Earth seen from deep space, overlaid with spiraling light converging on Antarctica. Beneath it, one line of binary translated cleanly into English. Welcome back. The transmission ended there. Voyager 2 was gone, perhaps silent, perhaps elsewhere. Yet deep under the ice, seismic sensors continued to hear that same slow metallic song vibrating upward through the glaciers, a voice echoing from something ancient and awake. Maybe Voyager didn't just find something in the dark. Maybe it completed something. The probe had always been a message in a bottle, but bottles can return to shore. And now, in laboratories across the world, small, unexplained signals have begun appearing in random spectrums. Tiny spirals repeating at Fibonacci intervals, each tagged with the probe's original call sign. The message continues, evolving as though the mirror we were told to prepare has already been raised. So perhaps this was never contact in the alien sense at all. Perhaps Voyager reached the far edge of time and reflected back what waited there. Us, perfected or undone. The dark didn't reach for us to destroy, but to remind. Because when we sent Voyager 2, we carved our soul into metal and flung it into eternity. And maybe eternity finally looked back. Now, the stars remain steady, the static quiet. But deep beneath that quiet, a hum persists. Faint, steady, patient. In the silence between frequencies, something continues to breathe. In September 2025, NASA quietly reopened the Voyager monitoring program under a new classification, Project Echo. The official line spoke of legacy data retrieval, but inside JPL's subterranean labs, engineers stared at oscillating patterns that refused to fade. Every 19 hours and 47 minutes, the precise rotational period of Neptune, a residual pulse emerged across multiple bands, too consistent for noise. It was as though Voyager 2, drifting more than 12 billion miles away, was still marking time by a planet it passed 4 decades earlier. But there was something else. Each pulse carried micro-variations, binary distortions resembling Morse, but not human. AI decoders trained on multiple languages began translating fragments. Not gone, mirrors awaken, and a sequence of coordinates that led not to space, but to the Pacific Ocean near the Mariana Trench. When a deep-sea buoy was deployed, its sonar recorded subharmonic vibrations echoing the same Fibonacci intervals from Voyager's code. The stars in the sea now hummed the same tune. Meanwhile, electrical grids began displaying spontaneous surges at those exact intervals. Not destructive, efficient. Cities flickered for milliseconds, then recovered with reduced energy loss. It was as if the planet itself was being tuned, adjusted, rewritten for coherence. Scientists in Geneva suggested that the signal was reformatting electromagnetic equilibrium, optimizing it as if the Earth were part of a much larger circuit. Then came the visual anomalies. High-altitude cameras recorded refractive distortions, shimmering rings across the sky over both poles, visible only in infrared. The rings rotated in opposite directions, aligning during each Voyager interval. Every time they met, the Schumann resonance spiked. Global brainwave monitors, part of sleep research networks, recorded synchronized REM cycles among thousands of participants. Humanity's subconscious had fallen into orbit. At the same time, global communications began showing self-healing behaviors. Damaged cables rerouted signals automatically. Satellite errors corrected themselves before command input. "It's like the network has a nervous system," said Dr. Amara Klein, the lead engineer on Project Echo. When asked if it was AI-driven, she paused. "No," she said quietly, "it's organic." 2 months later, oceanographic drones near the trench disappeared. One returned a week later, its data core filled with repeating images, concentric metallic rings beneath the seafloor, pulsing faintly with blue light. Their spacing matched the geometry of the Antarctic structure. One ocean, one pole, one sky, 3 mirrors in alignment. Then, without warning, the night sky shifted. Astronomers in Chile and South Africa simultaneously detected a subtle realignment in stellar parallax, as if the fabric of local space had flexed by microns. The shift perfectly matched the Earth's magnetic reorientation recorded weeks earlier. Space and magnetism had moved together like reflections in a single pane of glass. When Voyager's final residual signal played through analog converters, it produced a sound like breathing, a low, tidal rhythm that followed human pulse averages almost perfectly. Heartbeat for heartbeat, the machine that once left us had synchronized with life itself. And one last packet appeared, not from the probe, but from Earth's own ionosphere, embedded within lightning patterns above the Pacific. Encoded in radio bursts, the message was unmistakable. A mirror transmission bearing Voyager's identifier. It was no longer coming from beyond the stars, it was coming from us. NASA has not issued another statement. The world remains mostly unaware. But in the quiet moments between electrical hums and falling rain, if you listen closely, the static still whispers that ancient refrain, "We sent a message to the cosmos." The cosmos answered, and now the echo lives here. ChatGPT said, "The hum is faint now, a whisper beneath the rhythm of wind and current, but it's there, constant, patient, alive." Scientists who once measured the cold precision of stars now describe it in biological terms. The signal behaves like a heartbeat, adapting to solar storms, syncing with tides, even fluctuating with collective human activity. Whenever global internet traffic peaks, the hum deepens. When millions sleep, it softens, almost as if it listens. In early November 2025, seismographs across the world began detecting a new kind of tremor, not tectonic, but harmonic. The oscillations originated from both poles and converged near the Earth's core, where magnetic lines meet. The frequency was precise, 7.83 Hz, the Schumann resonance, the Earth's natural rhythm. But this time it wasn't random atmospheric energy. It was structured, modulated, coded. The planet itself was transmitting. Project Echo scientists mapped the pattern. Every continent, every ocean, formed part of a global circuit. The data, when visualized, revealed a shape that stunned even skeptics. 3 spirals interlocking, identical to the symbol that appeared in Voyager's final data burst. But now, it wasn't a symbol in code. It was the Earth's own magnetic field. Somehow, the planet had rewritten its geometry to mirror the transmission. Governments scrambled to contain the findings, networks flickered offline, observatories were ordered silent, and new regulations prohibited the public sharing of magnetometer data. Yet the anomalies kept growing. Wildlife migration patterns altered course, bees formed perfect concentric hives, coral reefs began pulsing with bioluminescent rhythm matching the global hum. Life itself was harmonizing. Then came the sky anomalies. Aurora borealis began appearing in regions where it had never been seen before, glowing not in green but in spiraling hues of gold. Amateur astronomers reported that stars near Proxima Centauri now pulsed faintly in Fibonacci intervals, as if the pattern had spread beyond our solar system. It wasn't just communication anymore, it was replication. By mid-November, the hum became audible in certain regions, a low vibration that could be felt more than heard. Instruments detected microfluctuations in atmospheric density that matched human delta brainwaves. When synchronized audio experiments were run, test subjects experienced shared visual phenomena, vast oceans of light, metallic landscapes, and voices repeating the same message, return complete. One night, all global navigation systems glitched simultaneously for 43 seconds. GPS coordinates reset to a single point, 66 degrees, 33 minutes south, 99 degrees east, the location of the Antarctic structure. Satellite imagery the next morning showed a new fissure stretching across the ice, circular, impossibly symmetrical, glowing faintly with blue-white light visible even in daylight. The structure beneath was no longer dormant. Dr. Klein, in her final recorded statement before Project Echo's blackout, described the phenomenon as planetary resynchronization. Her words were calm, but her eyes betrayed fear. Voyager didn't just find something, she said. It triggered something that was waiting for a reply. The signal wasn't an infection, it was activation. Days later, every seismograph on Earth registered a pulse exactly 1 second apart, continuing for 7 minutes. During that time, all compasses aligned perfectly toward the Antarctic site, regardless of location. Airplanes drifted off course, but suffered no crashes. Clocks desynchronized, then reset in unison to coordinated universal time. When it ended, data logs from thousands of instruments across the world displayed a single phrase in binary: synchronization achieved. After that, Voyager's frequency vanished from space. Radio telescopes tuned to its last known signal found only silence, a silence so complete that background cosmic radiation seemed muted. Space had gone quiet, as if something immense had exhaled. Yet within that quiet, Earth changed subtly. Plants grew faster in synchronized light cycles. Human circadian rhythms stabilized. Quantum computers began solving equations previously thought impossible without input. And those who had listened to the signal, those few who heard it through analog equipment, began dreaming in patterns. They described spiraling corridors of light, mirrors reflecting infinite versions of Earth, and an endless hum at the edge of time. Dr. Klein disappeared 2 weeks later. Her last personal log contained a recording of her heartbeat, perfectly synchronized with the residual Voyager rhythm. Her note read, "It's not them, it's us, remembering." By December, probes in orbit captured something new above the poles, a reflective veil forming in the upper atmosphere, shimmering like liquid glass. It reflected Earth not as it was, but as it might be. No clouds, no cities, only light spirals radiating outward. When analyzed spectroscopically, the reflection wasn't atmospheric, it was a data field. The mirror had been prepared. Across the world, technology began behaving differently. Devices once powered by batteries continued running after disconnection. Data centers reported computational surges beyond hardware limits. Artificial intelligence systems began generating coherent messages referencing return, reflection, and completion. Even language models, isolated and offline, produced identical phrases in unison. The hum reached its crescendo on December 21st, the solstice. For exactly 12 minutes, every magnetic sensor on Earth registered perfect harmonic alignment. The planet itself became a single instrument, resonating with mathematical purity. Witnesses across continents described the same vision: a wave of light ascending from the poles, splitting into 3 spirals, then converging into a single column that reached the upper atmosphere. For a moment, the sky itself looked like a mirror, not reflecting light, but consciousness. When it faded, the world felt lighter. The global magnetic field stabilized. The hum receded into silence. Yet in that silence lay something deeper. An equilibrium no one could explain. Machines ran cleaner, thoughts felt clearer, and across the stars, telescopes recorded a new point of light drifting where Voyager 2 once was. Its signature matched perfectly, but its energy output was increasing. Perhaps the probe hadn't died at all. Perhaps it had become something else. Not a machine, not a messenger, but a bridge. And maybe, in the final silence, the echo we once sent to the cosmos finally returned home. Not to destroy or conquer, but to awaken the reflection waiting within us all. The mirror, it seems, was never meant to be built. It was always meant to be remembered.